Everyone, shh. Shh.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games. Thanks so much for joining us here today. And today is a day about Path of Exile. You're going to find out a lot of awesome stuff we've been working on. Let's get started. You're probably wondering, why has it been so long since we last showed you any Path of Exile 2 footage?
Yeah.
And honestly, this is because the project is so important to us that we are definitely taking our time to make sure that we make the best possible action RPG. Let's watch a new trailer.
And they had to release it at the same time as D4, right? So, here we go, boys.
Among ancient ruins, evil grows once more.
Oh shit!
The speed of corruption advances, spreading dread and despair. We must give chase.
Oh shit! Oh, I like that. That looks like a telegraph mechanic. This looks like, dude, this looks like combat. Is that just a shit build though, or did they actually change the pacing of combat? All those spiders.
Survive.
Whoa! 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 Look at that new health bar! Look at this interface! Still the same class system though, cringe. New health bar UI looks fucking cool. Okay. UI changes, dude. UI changes.
Today, we're proud to showcase Path of Exile 2's second act, which takes place in the Vastiri Desert.
Ooh. Oh, it's like Act 2
Welcome to Path of Exile 2's second act. As you saw in the trailer, Act 2 is centered around a caravan of Maraketh called the Ardura who live in the Vastiri Desert. Path of Exile 2 is a lot more than just new acts. We want combat to feel both brutal and responsive, even at low levels. We're ensuring that each weapon type has unique and different mechanics. Each weapon class feels different to play, and today we're going to start by demonstrating the new spear weapon class.
Oh, shit!
Spears are a weapon class favoring mobility with both melee and ranged attack options. To that end, each spear will grant you at least one mobility skill.
It's not attack, killing the whole screen in one attack
though. The spear comes with both an engage and disengage skill.
I mean, it looks pretty sick.
One of the skills we're using here is called Whirling Slash. When you use Whirling Slash, it creates a sandstorm that grows in size each time you use the skill. When you leave the sandstorm, it explodes, dealing damage to nearby monsters. A great way to do that is to use the Disengage skill, which makes you fly backwards and throw projectiles.
I wonder if it can inflict bleed. Do you think the explosion can inflict bleed? Oh my god, that looks like a really good bleed ability, chat. A ramping attack that you can ramp up and then explode with one big bleed. Spear bleed build?
In PoE 2, each area's mini-boss is a much more substantial fight with interesting mechanics. You'll be able to find at least one mini-boss in each area of the game. One thing I love about this boss in particular is that it destroys the ceiling when it slams the ground, letting in more light. Clever players will notice that if they're standing in the light, then they're not going to have any rocks falling on their head.
Okay, dude. This looks cool and all, but like...
One of the skills we're using here is called Spear Field, which creates an area of spears coming out of the ground that impale monsters who walk into them, causing them to bleed. As the monsters move towards you, they take damage, so using your mobility skills as a way to move away from them is a great strategy here.
Did I hear bleed? Did he say bleed?
In Path of Exile 2, we've invested a lot in our animation system. I'm sure you're noticing the animations are looking a lot better than they did in PoE 1. But there's also a lot of subtle detail, like characters having different run animations depending on how fast they're moving. When we use a Quicksilver Flask here, you can see the character changes to a sprinting animation.
Yeah, it looks like you can see our legs, it's clean.
Now that we've arrived at the Ancient Gates, we're going to show you another of the new weapon classes in Path of Exile 2. Crossbows. Crossbows are special in that they grant attack skills implicitly. This particular crossbow grants Power Shot, which is a high damage single target attack. In order to modify what Power Shot does, you're going to need to equip Bolt skill gems, which change the type of bolts that are loaded into the crossbow. Here we've got 3 different bolt skills that the character can switch between depending on the situation.
Armor-piercing bolts. Incendiary bolts.
Permafrost bolts can be used to disrupt packs of enemies to prevent them from closing in on your position. You can then follow up with armor-piercing bolts to do plenty of damage.
This gameplay won't exist if you watch at the screen.
In this area, we're helping Asala, leader of the Ardura, to open the ancient gates and let the caravan through.
Armor-piercing bolts.
I hope this means there's a massive tuning pass and they nerf everything. Yeah, so we can have actual gameplay, chat.
Because the bolt types are the skill gems, support gems that are added to them will modify whatever the skill is that you're using. Here we're going to add multiple projectiles to our incendiary bolt.
Permafrost bolts.
Wait, what the fuck?
Incendiary bolts.
You can customize every single one of them? That's crazy. Chat, slow up gameplay is going to be way better for PoE overall, because then you actually have engaging gameplay. Because it's not like, because you can't do a combo on an enemy if the enemy just dies in one shot instantly. You understand how that works? There's no reason to kite or do anything if you just instantly one shot all trash in the game.
Permafrost bolts.
Right? If you want engaging gameplay, you gotta slow it down.
Incendiary bolts.
It's just like the spear skills look sick, and these they do look sick, but compared to current PoE, they look awful, right? But if they were to nerf everything,
Permafrost bolts.
you don't know how the rebalance is gonna look with all the sick socket shit. Because with the new gem zone system, I think, I mean, I don't know how they're gonna balance abilities, but they're clearly doing a big rebalance.
This is the Ardura caravan, your town in Act 2.
That's cool. That's pretty badass. I like moving platform shit. That just looks cool.
I am Asala, the Sigma of the Ardura.
Uber!
I cannot where you...
What kind of scuff build is he running to be spears and crossbow?
Storm Spear fires a lightning projectile which splits on contact.
Okay.
The other skill we're using here is called Blazing Lance.
Look at that
Blazing
thing!
Lance creates a trail of fire from the ground, dealing damage over time. However, if you're willing to stand in place for long enough, you can throw a second spear that will fan the flames for much more damage.
That's cool. Oh my god, these mobs look sick! I just love how everything's not dying instantly and how there's actual combat. I hope PoE 2 is actually like this, and it's not just the one shot the entire screen fest. Whoa!
We've just found a unique spear. It's called Devata's Wind. This spear has an extra modifier that synergizes really well with Storm Spear. When you disengage, you get 2 additional projectiles on your projectile skills.
Wait, I read something about bleeding. I thought I read something about bleeding there. Did I not read something about bleeding just a second ago? I want to pause, but I can't. I swear to God I saw something about reading. Like something about bleeds lasting longer. I'm telling you, that one spinny attack that explodes after you ramp it up, that looks like a fucking sick ramp bleed build.
If you have any questions about what you just saw, we'll be doing a Q&A later on. While Path of Exile 2 definitely won't be released this year, we do have a Path of Exile expansion you can play 1 week from now. I'd like to introduce Path of Exile Ultimatum.
Oh!
You only live once, Exile.
YOLO.
Make your choice.
Ritual 2.0! Let's go, dude! What the hell was that? What the hell was that ability? God, travel foods, bandit recipes. The Lord's Labyrinth reworked! Wait, they're reworking everything? Wait, how much are they reworking? Reworked Betrayal, Blind Breach? What does that mean by reworked rewards? It's too much. I'm confused.
Ultimate reward requires ultimate risk. Face the ultimatum.
Boss! I'm killing that guy. I'm killing that guy, chat. 100%. Solo self and hardcore blind. That boss is dead on my screen already. Fucking thing.
In each area of the Ultimatum League, you'll meet the Trial Master, an emissary of a vile entity only known as Chaos. On behalf of Chaos, the Trial Master enacts trials where exiles must risk an escalating set of valuable rewards as they attempt to overcome progressively more difficult encounters. In each trial, you'll be presented with a reward, an objective, and a selection of difficulty modifiers that make the trial harder. Once you've chosen one of the modifiers, you must then complete that objective under the constraints of that modifier in order to win the promised reward.
Okay, and then it adds on to the list.
If you succeed in the challenge, the Trial Master will present you with an ultimatum. Either walk away with what you have earned so far, or risk it all to try to win additional rewards.
Bonus.
He'll offer you another item if you can select an additional difficulty modifier and complete the challenge with both modifiers present. If you fail though, you'll lose both rewards and walk away with nothing.
That's cool.
If you succeed, you'll be offered an additional reward in exchange for adding yet another difficulty modifier that stacks on top of the current ones. This cycle continues until the rewards become increasingly valuable and the encounter extremely difficult. You'll have to pick a point to end your run and claim your spoils before you make the encounter too hard and lose everything. In maps, you'll occasionally find items called Inscribed Ultimations. These items can be placed in the map device to transport you to the Trial Master's domain. Each Inscribed Ultimatum specifies an offering that you must bring with you, a reward you can earn, and an assortment of ultimatum difficulty modifiers.
Cool.
If you're able to complete the trial, the Trial Master will reward you with a specified reward, which is usually worth around twice the value of the item you must bring.
That's cool.
For example, you may be asked to risk an Exalted Orb to win a stack of 2, or potentially risk a stack of 5 to win a stack of 10.
Oh shit!
Naturally, there are also new unique items that can only be obtained from Ultimatum. One such unique is the Glimpse of Chaos Val Mask, which provides powerful benefits to your maximum life, mana, and energy shield at the cost of having severely reduced elemental resistances and no chaos resistance. The item can be corrupted multiple times and has unique corruption outcomes, such as removing a random modifier or transforming it into a different random corrupted unique helmet entirely that retains its corruption implicit mod.
What the fuck?
Another new Val unique item in Ultimatum is Mahuzottl's Machination, which grants you 6 keystone passives at once. Combining all of these keystones results in some very unusual outcomes, and the item features an entirely new unique keystone as well.
Party pussy
So that's Path of Exile Ultimatum. I can tell you, on release day, a lot of our developers are looking forward to watching Twitch so we can see players risking far too much in order to try to get good rewards.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Speaking of rewards, there's a lot to talk about here. We had a look at Path of Exile's past reward systems, and we honestly feel many of them are out of date, many of them kind of lack identity, and to top it all off, like the core drop pool of just items that drop when you kill regular monsters just wasn't really compelling enough.
True.
Like, you know that feeling where any monster could drop a mirror? We want that for a whole slew of different items. And so we've made a lot of changes to Path of Exile's reward systems. There's a bunch of ones to the core drop pool to keep it really interesting. There's ones to basically every piece of League and expansion specific content.
What?
And we're going to go through all of those for quite a while now. We started by reviewing which items can drop from monsters and chests in the core game. To make sure the core drop pool remains compelling, we've made various changes. You can now find 2 additional currency items as core drops, Orbs of Binding from the Harbinger League, and the new Veiled Chaos Orb, which we'll reveal in more detail soon.
What the fuck's that?
We've also added 5 new Atlas base types, like this Energy Shield Recharge Amulet. These drop in specific regions of the Atlas of Worlds and have some powerful new implicit mods. We've also added a bunch of very powerful and valuable League-specific uniques into the core drop pool. This means that they can drop from any sufficiently high-level monster without you having to engage with specialized content.
Oh my god, Jen's getting DDoS.
Examples of these are Badge of the Brotherhood,
BLS.
Asylum, Pledge of Hands, Maloney's Mechanism, Brutus's Lead Sprinkler, and Headhunter. The goal of all these changes is to make sure that every monster you kill in Path of Exile has a chance to drop something incredibly valuable regardless of what content you're playing. We have also introduced a new type of reliquary key into the core drop pool for this expansion. If you're very lucky, you can find a Val reliquary key from any monster or chest in Path of Exile. When consumed in the map device, it gives you access to a vault with a chest that drops a special foil version of a Val-themed unique item.
Foil!
Each unique has an equal chance of dropping. Due to the value and power level of the items contained within, this is the rarest reliquary key ever added to Path of Exile. Path of Exile's first expansion, Sacrifice of the Val, introduced a new ultimate boss, Adzeri, Queen of the Val.
Look at
This fight holds up pretty well these days, considering that it is 7 years old, but its rewards really needed a refresh. The Sacrificial Garb base type that drops from Adzeri has been significantly improved with the addition of an implicit mod that grants +1 to the level of all Val gems you have equipped. We have also added 2 new unique items to Adzeri's drop pool and 2 more to Uber Adzeri's. One of which is the Atziri's Rule Judgment Staff, which prevents you from being stunned or having your damage reflected. It grants a skill that alternates between Flames of Judgment and Storm of Judgment when used, as if you absorb the powers of Atziri herself. Skipping forward to 2016's release of Ascendancy, we have made some changes to how you receive your Labyrinth enchantments. Previously, when you completed the Labyrinth and went to enchant an item, you couldn't see what random result you'd get.
Please let us choose.
Now, the result for each type of enchantment is shown to you in advance so you can make the right choice. In the Eternal Labyrinth, you're now offered 3 different helmet enchantments to pick between, in addition to the boots and gloves. This will make it a lot easier to find enchantments relevant to the skills you're using and to apply them to appropriate items.
Still kind of cringe for SSF.
In 3.14, we're going to stop giving out unique jewels for each day's fastest Labyrinth runs, and we have added these jewels as very rare drops that you might find in the Labyrinth's final reward chests.
Oh, that's because people are cheating,
Another highly requested Labyrinth-related improvement is that you can now consume an offering to the goddess and the map device to open portals directly to a random trial. This greatly accelerates the speed at which you can find your final trials. We have also added 2 new Labyrinth-specific unique items, including the Scales of Justice unique shield, which rewards building your character with a careful balance of life and mana. If used correctly, you'll be granted protection from shock and ignite, as well as additional fire damage. Blessings, the currency used to upgrade Breach uniques, can now be used to upgrade Breach stones between tiers also.
Oh, that's cool. That's fucking cool.
Abyss jewels have been rebalanced and are on average more powerful than they were before. We have also buffed Abyss chests to make sure that they are the best place to get Abyss jewels.
That's a lot of accuracy. What the fuck?
We have also introduced Abyss scarabs and have added 4 new Abyss-specific unique jewels, such as Tekrod's Gaze, a murderous eye jewel that increases your main hand critical strike chance and your offhand critical strike multiplier based on how many murderous eye jewels you have equipped. Another example is the Ulaman's Gaze Searching Eye Jewel, which counts how many Searching Eye Jewels you have equipped and grants your projectiles a chance to be able to chain when colliding with terrain proportional to this number. These unique jewels have a chance to drop from any of the unique encounters at the end of the Abyssal Depths, and these encounters are now by far the most reliable way to obtain a Stygian Vice belt.
Shocking, I guess.
We have added a handful of new beastcrafts, such as add a mod to a map or add a mod to an influenced item, which consume existing beasts. There are some other aspects of beast crafting that we've been keeping our eye on for a while, and we're taking this opportunity to rework them, so that high-level gameplay is less reliant on obtaining certain beastcrafts. Now, when you use a splitting beastcraft recipe on an item, both copies are marked as split, which prevents them from being split again. You cannot imprint split items.
Oh, get fucking destroyed!
One of my favorite reward changes in this expansion is that Incursion's Temple of Atsuatl can now be itemized. Once you have access to the map device, Alva can turn your completed and ready-to-run temple into a tradable object that can be consumed in the map device.
That's badass.
This means that players can specialize in either making temples to trade to other players or trading for temples that are ready for them to run.
Doesn't affect me at all, but that's a good change.
There have also been a lot of changes to the temple. As you may know, specific rooms in the Temple of Atsuatl can drop unique incursion items that can be later upgraded.
That looks like a bleed attack.
Many of these base unique items have been improved in this update.
That looks like a bleed attack.
Previously, the temple's boss, the Omnitect, dropped random rare items with special incursion mods on them. Now it also drops rare items with incursion mods based around the themes of the rooms your temple contains. Higher tier rooms cause more rare items.
Okay.
Delve has had a big increase to early rewards and a reduction to the quantity of high tier rewards spawning at very deep depths. The end result is that Delve is a lot more rewarding for almost everyone, but a few extreme players who delve very deep will not be getting quite so rich from it. A big problem with rewards and betrayal is that players deem it not worthwhile to kill Katarina because it resets your betrayal syndicate board.
I never do it.
In this expansion, we have massively increased the incentive for doing this. Now if you manage to kill Katarina, all syndicate members drop their rewards at 1 tier higher than they previously would. This change required the introduction of a new 4th tier of reward from each syndicate member and encourages the use of a larger variety of syndicate targets and safe house leaders. We have improved rewards that were not as interesting or valuable as the best ones. For cases where we deemed rewards too powerful, we moved them to tier 4 rather than nerfing them. The tier 4 rewards are approximately twice as powerful as tier 3 ones were. We have also added a new unique item to Katarina's drop pool as further incentive for killing her.
What is it?
The Cane of Kulamak drops only from Katarina. Similar to Paradoxica, it has 3 veiled modifiers that must be unveiled one at a time via Jun. This means that each version of the cane could be entirely different, and because of the way the veiled modifier system works, you have the chance to get 3 mods that potentially synergize extremely well, or maybe just a crazy pack of mods that don't work together. Furthermore, the cane itself scales up the magnitudes of any unveiled modifiers on it. We have made some changes to how unveiling mods works. You still get offered a choice of 3 mods, but these are now more powerful versions of the existing ones. The powerful ones are unveiled onto items, and the normal versions are the ones you unlock that can be crafted onto items. Also, progress towards unlocking crafting of veiled mods is at a slightly faster rate than before. Some very powerful veiled modifiers are now only available at their original strength on the unveiled version of the modifier, and the crafted version of the modifier has been lowered in power.
Paradox is gonna be nuts. Holy shit, Paradox
Earlier
is
in
gonna
the
be nuts
presentation,
now.
I alluded to the new Veiled Chaos Orb as an item that has been added to Path of Exile's core drop pool. This new currency item rerolls the target item with new mods, like a regular Chaos Orb does, but one mod is guaranteed to be a Veiled mod. While it can drop from any monster or chest in the game, by far the most effective way of getting it is from Isling and some Betrayal safe houses. You can now corrupt blighted maps. These can very rarely drop the new Tainted Oil, which allows you to apply anointments to corrupted items.
Tainted oil. Oh shit, that's big. Wait,
We have
what?
also introduced Blighted Scarabs.
Holy shit, tainted
We
oil.
have added 2 new types of catalysts themed around speed and critical strikes, respectively. These new catalysts are rarer than previous
Oh,
ones.
that's OP. Wait.
So I just spent a ton of time describing lots of buffs to Path of Exile's different reward systems, and
Yeah.
there was one nerf that I left to last.
Oh.
And that's because it's a nerf to a league that I kind of care about a bit. Talisman was one that I kind of led the design on, and players joke that it's my favorite league. Now, in the 3.12.3 content update, there was a change to talismans. Basically, they weren't good enough, so the team decided to add a random anointment to them, which made them a lot more powerful,
good.
and also to juice up the mods to make them well rolled.
It's really good.
And that was overkill. Like,
What?
as you've seen recently, talismans have just been dropping with insane mods
Bro,
and
it's
great
fine.
anointments. And we felt in this expansion, especially because you can use tainted oils
Bro.
in order to redo the anointments on talismans, because now you can modify corrupted amulets.
He's kind of right,
Honestly,
though.
they don't need the well-rolled mods anymore.
No!
And so we've removed that. Talismans are still compelling, but they're not quite where they were in
That's
the last
cringe.
league.
I don't like that.
Every Path of Exile expansion needs new ways for players to slaughter their enemies.
Okay, yeah,
In
yeah.
Path of Exile Ultimatum, this takes the form of 4
I
new
get it,
skill
though,
gems
for
and
Trade
4
League.
support gems. In line with Ultimatum's Val theme, these gems focus on blood. The idea is spending life rather than mana to use your
Bleed.
skills. Alongside the new skill and support
Bleed.
gems, we've also made some adjustments to the low life mechanic, including changing the low life threshold to 50%. This makes it much easier and safer
What?
to stay on low life for builds where it matters.
Buffing low life?
Typically, when players create low-life builds, they rely on Energy Shield to protect themselves against incoming damage. The new skill Petrified Blood enables low-life builds to instead use some of their life pool to absorb hits. While it's active, you can't recover life above 50% through any method other than flasks. Sources of life recovery like life regeneration and life leech only apply to the bottom half of your life pool. Additionally, a portion of incoming hit damage
That's
that
fucking
affects
cool.
the lower half of your life pool is spread out over time rather than being applied instantly.
That's fucking cool.
Corrupting Fever
What?
consumes a chunk of your life and grants you a buff that causes all your hits to apply Corrupted Blood to your enemies. Corrupted Blood stacks up with each hit, causing more and more physical damage over time.
Ramping!
When you have consumed a certain amount of life to cast skills from your life pool, the buff's duration refreshes. Essentially, as long as you're consuming life to use skills, you'll be causing damage over time to stack on enemies. Be careful though.
Yo!
The Exsanguinate skill shoots tendrils of blood in front of you at the cost of life rather than mana. In addition to a strong physical damage hit, it also applies a physical damage over time debuff which can stack up to 3 times.
Yo.
You can also support Exsanguinate so that its tendrils chain from one target to the next.
The Bleed League.
Reap
The Bleed
conjures a
League.
giant bloody scythe that swings across a selected area, applying strong hit damage and physical damage over time. Each use of the skill causes it to gain a charge that scales its damage up and increases its life
This
cost up to 5 times.
That looks so OP.
These charges drop off over time as well as after killing enemies, making Reap very powerful at stacking up damage against single targets. The Cruelty support gem grants a buff called Cruelty, which increases the damage over time you deal with supported skills. It also boosts the hit damage from supported skills, and the Cruelty buff gets stronger the harder you hit. This gem is designed as an additional option for builds that focus on both hits and damage over time.
It looks 20%. It looks
The
worse.
Bloodthirst
That looks
support gem
bad.
is a new option for low life attackers. This gem adds a percentage of your life as physical weapon damage while you're on low life, letting low life attack based builds really scale their damage, which
That's all. I'm
wasn't an
playing
option
low
before.
life attack based build. I'm playing low
Alongside a
life.
Val-themed expansion and blood-themed gems, it felt right to take the opportunity
I did
to
write
improve
down.
Val skills, which are supercharged versions of regular gems that charge up with the souls of your slain enemies to deal huge bursts of damage. One of the main improvements is that you now get far more souls for Val skills from damaging unique enemies, so your Val skills will recharge faster against bosses.
That's fucking
We've
cool.
also improved the Atziri's Reign unique jewel. Alongside increasing the duration of your Val skills, it also grants a chance to regain all consumed souls. Val skills have also received a balance pass that you can check out in the full Path of Exile Ultimatum patch notes in a few days.
Oh, shit. Pretty
Anyway,
bug.
if you have any questions from what we've shown you today, please get them ready because I'm about to be joined by Ziggy D as we do a Q&A based on your questions from Twitch chat.
G'day, mate. Ziggy fucking D here. We're watching the Q&A chat, so yeah. Whatever, dude. I'll admit, the ultimatum thing, chat, looks cool, and the one where you have to sacrifice like exalts to get more shit, that's double cool. That's good because it makes the softcore pussies want to not die as well, so it means like people can't just make last cannon builds because they don't want to lose their shit, right? Exchange blood for power. Val skill effect duration. Val skills have a 20% chance to regain consumed souls when used. Honestly, dude, do you know what's weird, chat? It's like they're making Val skills almost like more like a cooldown with every patch. Why not just make them into cooldowns? So Insanguinate uses life instead of mana to shoot tendrils of blood in front of you, applying strong fist damage and fist damage over time debuff, which can stack up 3 times. You can also support it so the tendrils can chain from one target to the next. And that looks exciting, but I think it's a spell, right? It's not an attack. Right? It's bloodbending, dude. It's bloodbending. It's a spell. Yeah, I think it's a physical spell. Corrupting Fever. Corrupting Fever consumes some of your life and grants a buff that causes your hits to apply corrupted blood, which stacks with each hit, causing more physical damage over time. When a certain amount of life is consumed to use the skills, the buff refreshes. Reap conjures a bloody scythe that swings across an area, applying strong hit damage and physical damage over time. So you gotta understand, chat, if it's got a strong hit, that means it has high base damage. That means you can scale both the physical damage over time dot, and you can also scale the bleed. Think about it. Wait, what's up? Oh.
G'day, folks, and welcome back to another very exciting reveal and Q&A session with the one and only Chris Wilson. Good morning, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me.
How are you feeling about the reactions so far?
I'm pretty hyped, actually. That was a lot of stuff to cover, and it was really cool watching Twitch chat.
Campaign then. A lot of people noted that the stream showed like kind of slowdown in content in PoE 2, and it was talked about previously that it will be a bit of a pullback in terms of overall game speed. Is that still the case? Where are you looking to kind of pitch the speed of PoE 2?
That is a good question.
We want Path of Exile 2 to be a slightly more claustrophobic personal experience, but we understand that when presented with that, players find ways to make their characters go fast, because after all, these games are measured on what items you find, and that's in direct proportion to how many monsters you kill, and that's in direct proportion to how fast you can go. And so, yes, it is a game where people will end up going fast. All of the crazy character builds and more are still possible, so I would rather expect that Path of Exile's speed continues to be a high-speed game once we hit the end game and people get their character builds established. But we still have to try as hard as possible to make it a compelling experience for people who want to play at a normal pace as well. Yeah, and so while we played at a normal pace through that particular showcase there, it's possible to run through, right? You can be very smart about which monsters you kill. You can do the whole thing rather quickly if you're a racer.
But Raccoon is asking basically if we're going to be getting more of the integration of things like trading UIs and stuff like that in game, and also similarly the ideas that were talked about in the past about having the possibility of transferring items like across instances and stuff like that, cross instance trading.
The change that's most likely to come is an integration of the trade websites into the game client, where people can basically interact with stuff more easily without actually having to leave the game. And that means that, for example, if you see an item in the in-game trade site browser as such, you can click on it to whisper the person directly without having to copy and paste stuff around. That's more likely is the direction that we're going to go. We've talked about our views on trade for quite a while, about how it is important that there are some barriers to instant acquisition of items in order to encourage players to actually play the game to find items while still being able to trade if they want to. And our views on that are still pretty similar. So we don't expect to, put it this way, if we were going to dramatically revamp how trade works, we'd just do it. We wouldn't wait until Path of Exile 2.
I'd like to talk a little bit about Ultimatum. It's on the surface, it looks quite similar to Ritual. I noticed a lot of people pointing that out. What are the key differences in your mind between Ultimatum and Ritual then?
So different.
Well, the similarity that we have here is that it's a in-area combat league where you encounter the encounter and then fight some monsters and get some rewards. And this is as opposed to going on a grand heist or collecting, beasts, for example. And so that's kind of where the similarities end, though, because after that point, the difference is that Ultimatum gives you a very fine granular control over the difficulty and reward that you're getting. So You have the
Dude,
ability to
still
add
friends.
up to, I'm going to say up to 10, because that's where it goes in the end game, but usually 6 up to 10 modifiers to the fight that are your choice. You're presented with different options. If you
That
don't
sounds
want a
horrific.
certain constraint, you just don't have to add that one. And so you're kind of customizing the fight by essentially adding mods that further make it more difficult. And if you're lucky, you'll get an ultimatum run where the mods don't affect your character in a particularly negative way, and you have an easier time. Sometimes you're just fighting through a slog of really hard stuff. And so the rewards escalate kind of exponentially here. Like, the intention here isn't that you just make your way through the 6 to 10 rounds pretty easily and get your 6 to 10 rewards and walk away. The intention is it gets difficult and you have to make a choice of actually stopping. And we want it so even good players while playing through the
customize that
campaign
UI, baby.
will reach a point where they say, okay, I've just got to take this stuff and leave. I can't risk the next round because there's an actual 50% chance that I'm going to screw it up and lose all my stuff. And so this is the first league that people are going to be failing encounters even if they know how to play the game. And that's because they can choose how far they want to take it. Which is different than Ritual, because in Ritual it's expected that you're going to kill the monsters, you're going to get your rewards. Here, the rewards are a lot better, but will you get them?
Waras8 asks, will the other skills get reworked, buffed, nerfed this time around, or is there any mechanical nerf to existing things?
Is that in reference to regular skills in the core game with the Ultimatum release?
It is, Chris.
Yeah.
We do have the usual patch notes coming out, but we try to cover basically just new stuff that we were doing with regard to skills. I don't know the extent of the changes to the other stuff. I will quickly check.
They're going to be changing complete.
There's some nerfs and a couple of buffs, so
Classic.
just seeing what people think about that. But no, I mean, nerfs are obviously for a reason. It's to keep the game good, and we,
Nerf that
philosophically
shit, baby.
on that, we would rather gently nerf things that are right at the top and then have to fundamentally change the entire game to achieve the same balance thing in a
Fucking good.
roundabout way that players don't notice for a while. So it is a much more direct approach that we're taking these days. If something is just breaking the game through power,
What's
we'll
OP
cut a
shit?
little bit off the
ED
top.
cucks?
Generally, whenever we do that, we're thinking it's still really good. Why are people so angry? And then they settle down after they've actually used it. So we are trying to make sure that the nerfs are just taking a bit of the power off the top and keeping the thing viable and fun still.
Buff the shit skill zone,
there
bro.
was a new unique
Please.
that had like a ton of keystones on it, including
for
one new
post.
keystone, which I'm guessing we'll have to wait to see what that's all about. Right?
Tell us.
Yep.
Tell us.
Are the other keystones on that item random, or are they set?
They're a set of keystones. This is a group of Val keystones that work in interesting ways together, kind of like a puzzle for people to solve. So it'll be quite interesting to see how people work out how to play that character.
So it's like a hand-tailored
Sounds like a Quin build.
character build challenge that the devs
Yeah.
are
Sounds like a
forward to
Quin
the
build.
community.
Think of it as like a designer's cut version of Path of Exile. This is the true way to play, right?
Sounds like a Quin build,
So
dude.
CI Eldritch Battery, got it.
Hell yeah, brother.
Very nice. Gotcha. So the Veiled Chaos Orb allows you to reroll an item and gives a Veiled modifier on the item as well.
Yes.
And unveiling that, just to clarify, does give you crafting progress as well. So it's a way of unlocking those crafts faster.
Yeah.
They're gonna be expensive.
Crafting and unlocking. Yep, that's correct.
That will be expensive
You-
AF.
it said earlier in the presentation that the Chaos Orb drops are part of the core drop pool, right? Not like
Yes.
a betrayal specific thing. Okay, how common are they
They will
compared to
be.
like a regular Chaos Orb?
Guarantee
They're
it.
they're not very common. You want to get them through the betrayal system if you
Dude,
want to target farm them,
Unveil.
essentially, but you can find them. And the core drop pool thing is more about the fact that
Attack
it's
speed
worthwhile
quality.
killing monsters because from time to time you will actually find one. It will be an exciting thing.
T1
But
attack
like
speed with
many
T1
things in the
quality.
game, there's a more deterministic way to get them. This is actually a case of like, we initially really
Think about
wanted to have it just as a betrayal reward. But I put a strong argument forward that we want the core drop pool to be compelling, and so it was added, but not particularly often. You'll see them, just not as much as you will from betrayal.
Okay. How many previously league-specific uniques are being added to the drop pool?
Way more than the 6 that we listed. It's like 100 or something. Essentially, we looked at all the old league uniques, and there were kind of 2 ways you could get them. You could either get them by fighting content in that league, or you could get them by killing some specific boss. And all the ones that you get from specific bosses, like, Pale Council kind of stuff and so on, that stuff is still specific to those bosses.
Okay.
But every item that you could find by fighting league monsters that would drop because they're a monster of that league is now possible to get in the core drop pool. And so in one swoop, we have made Path of Exile's unique pools significantly more interesting in terms of stuff that you can find by just playing the regular game.
I don't know if I
While
like
still
that.
meaning that the old leagues have their, interesting rewards.
Does it dilute the pool?
And exactly
more loot.
how many headhunters am I going to find now?
Yeah, Headhunter League.
So this is an interesting one, and the verdict is out on our math because on one hand, I want to start by saying Headhunter is like clearly in the sights of the balance team of being very unhappy with how powerful this item is, right? And I am putting my foot down and saying, no, Headhunter is an iconic part of Path of Exile. We're not nerfing it. It's going to stay awesome, right? So I'm representing the community here. Headhunter stays great. Ideally, we will see Headhunter remaining a completely amazing item because it has not been nerfed and still, being a viable thing for builds. It's just a little bit more of a lottery as to whether you actually find one. And we think that's actually quite important in this kind of game because it means that a player who's not as good or not as lucky normally as other players can just luck their way into something that gives them a ton of currency. And players who know what they're doing have plenty of deterministic options for still getting it and deterministic options for raising currency they can use to just trade for one if they need it.
Oh, shut the fuck up. He's talking about you. He's talking about you, Twitch chat. He's not talking about me. I'm a professional PoE player.
Well, that's like previously it happened with mirrors and it happened with obscure rare items they would never notice, right? But it was so cool watching some random player get something incredibly valuable and it just changes their game experience. And so we've just made sure that there's a lot of other options that they can find as well that are valuable.
I'm just curious why there isn't like a cap on character size in regards to Headhunter. Why do we get Shin point of view Headhunter characters instead of just like, I don't know, 3 times the size characters? Which is still impressive. Just curious.
I don't know why there isn't a cap on it. One second. The team says there is a cap now in 3.14. Well, there you go. Look what you've done, Ziggy.
Wow!
You talk.
I did it. I killed Shin point of view single-handedly. It's all my fault.
Right there. They're like in the game is you're suggesting stuff. What else would you like changed?
I did it. I'm not even.
Delete handed it while you're at it. Just remove it.
There's like some like small portion of players is like, I love Shin point of view.
I will make sure that that's listed in the patch notes under a section called Ziggy Nerfs.
Yes, perfect. I'll own that.
He's got too much power.
Oh, great. I did want to ask about the like rare rolling system. It was used in ritual on certain items, right, where they would have the better rolls. Is it potentially used on the rewards from
Ultimatum?
Ultimatum, that's the one.
Yes. It is, and that's because this is a case where we say to you, this is the reward you'll be getting, and if that's a random rare with normal odds, people will look at it and say, I see 1,000 random rares in a typical play session, I don't care about your item. Whereas we're going to show them some good items, and they're going to say, I'm going to risk everything, and then they're going to die, and then they'll be angry, and we'll laugh.
Fuck yeah!
You'll laugh.
Wait, is this dynamic of Twitch chat in my stream?
Is there anywhere else you're looking to add that system? Like to, I don't know, like certain league-specific reward pools, blighted pustules, things like that?
It's generally cases where it's not okay to drop a pile of items. I would rather generally drop a reasonable number of items for players to choose between, but in the case that we have to present them with one, then we'll make sure that it's a compelling one. And things like the display cabinets in Heist, or the items in the ritual window or the ultimatum offerings, those things there, we don't get the ability to give them a whole screen full of stuff to pick from. So I like the garage sale thing of going through a bunch of things and trying to work out what's best. But we use the well-rolled stuff in order to offer people a single item.
I like this.
Of course, we'll be doing decluttering to make sure that when I say you're going to look through some rings to find out what's best, I'm not talking about 400 of them, but we'll hit a sweet spot.
We have Buse asking, what was the change in the life pool showing leech or something? So the life pool was doing, very perceptive by the way, Buse, doing some interesting things during a certain point.
Was that right?
Okay, so you're looking at the Petrified Blood skill there. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but this is the one where while you're on low life, which is now at 50% is the threshold, hits that you take will partly be applied instantly like normal and partly affect you over time. And so it shows 2 levels in your health orb, one of them being the level that's kind of trickling down to.
I like the sounds of that mechanic. There was also the...
I'm playing that build. I've got PTSD from that temple.
Crunch asks, are there Atlas tree nerfs, i.e. the Harbingers? The Echoes of the Atlas passive trees.
Right. So I haven't seen the changes for this, so I'm going to talk generally
100%.
speaking. We introduced the system in the last league, and that means when it's introduced, there's going to be stuff that's wrong. So there's going to be stuff that had to be buffed a lot. There's going to be stuff that had to be nerfed a lot. And so I would expect fully to see some of the most abusive stuff probably toned down. And I would expect to see some of the stuff no one was picking to be more powerful. But I have not seen the changes, so I'm just making that up.
It has to be diplomatic as fuck after Harvest.
They say, yep, we'll make some changes. And so this is version 2. It's still meant to be powerful and compelling, and we'll see what people think.
Harbingers are OP, bro.
Awesome stuff.
It's dumb as fuck.
A bunch of people spamming in the chat are just spamming flasks. So I'm guessing they're curious if there's going to be any flasking changes.
No flask changes in this one.
I assume that's the idea of like
In this one.
pressing flask frequently, which is something.
Yeah,
In
we're
this
very
one.
aware of the feedback. We just don't have a change to make at this stage, and we don't want to make like small changes that don't really fix the problem or whatever.
Gotcha.
They're going to check PoE to a new
Molotov
flask system.
asks, is there a fix for
Confirm.
Group Maven? Sekna asks, what are your thoughts on migrating hardcore leagues to SC leagues to encourage people to try out hardcore?
This is one of those
Break
things
the
that sounds really good at face value, right? Like, I'm a hardcore player, and I would absolutely love it if I can just keep playing in the equivalent standard league. But historically, the reasons why we didn't do this was that we felt it would be demoralizing for you to be playing standard, taking it seriously. And by standard, I mean the standard current challenge league, taking it real seriously. And then some hardcore player appears above you on the ladder, super angry that he's now in your trash pool of a league, blah, 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 blah. You see? And maybe that's just a psychological thing, but that's the reason why we had it so it goes to real hardcore. That's a real standard when a hardcore character dies.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris, for the Q&A, and thank you, chat, for all the questions.
Great questions, everyone. Hope you really enjoy Ultimatum.
Awesome stuff. All right. We'll see you guys all for Bayclast soon with Rory. But that's it for now.
All right. All right, there it is, dude. Clap in the chat. Claps in the chat.
Because he is
God